Have you ever pondered what would happen if the masses rose against their leaders? This isn't just a hypothetical musing, but a stark reality that played out on the grand stage of history during the French Revolution. A monumental event that shook the foundations of the old world and set the stage for the modern era. This wasn't just an uprising of disgruntled peasants. Oh no, it was a tumultuous tide that swept across the nation, consuming all in its path. It was the outcry of a populace that had been pushed to its limits, a population that yearned for more than just survival, a population that demanded change. The French Revolution was born out of a perfect storm of socio-economic conditions. The Kingdom of France, despite its opulent palaces and grandeur, was teetering on the brink of financial ruin. Extravagant spending by the monarchy and the nobility had plunged the nation into a deep financial crisis. The burden of this crisis was shouldered by the common people, the Third Estate, who were already grappling with rampant inequality. These were the people who toiled day and night, yet barely had enough to put bread on their table. They were taxed heavily, while the nobility and the clergy, the First and Second Estates, lived lives of luxury, exempt from taxation. This blatant disparity sowed the seeds of discontent amongst the masses, but it wasn't just the economic disparity that fueled the revolution, it was also the influence of Enlightenment ideas. The writings of philosophers like Rousseau and Voltaire, advocating liberty, equality and fraternity, began to resonate with the populace. The people began to question the divine right of kings, the social hierarchy, and the very fabric of their society. They began to envision a society where all men were equal, where justice wasn't a privilege of the few, but a right of all. It was the perfect storm, a populace desperate for change, and a spark to ignite the flame of revolution. As we delve deeper into this riveting tale, we'll see how this spark ignited a revolution that forever changed the course of history. On July 14th, 1789, the flame of revolution was lit. The Bastille, an imposing fortress in the heart of Paris, was about to be stormed, marking the beginning of the French Revolution. The Bastille wasn't just a prison, oh no. It was a stark symbol of the monarchy's absolute power, a chilling reminder of the king's iron rule. Its looming towers cast long shadows over the city, shadows that were about to be pierced by the light of revolution. For years, the citizens of France had been groaning under the weight of a failing economy, heavy taxes, and a disconnected monarchy. The Bastille was the embodiment of their plight, a fortress of oppression. But on the fateful summer day, the people decided to take a stand. A crowd of revolutionaries, driven by desperation and determination, stormed the Bastille. They were ordinary men and women, the backbone of France, who had decided they'd had enough. Farmers, bakers, blacksmiths, they all had one thing in common that day: a burning desire for freedom. The storming of the Bastille was more than just an attack on a fortress. It was a powerful statement against tyranny, a daring defiance of centuries-old oppression. The revolutionaries didn't just fight, they fought with a courage that was contagious. Their bravery was not just in their swords and muskets, but in their hearts and souls. They fought against the soldiers, they scaled the walls, and they tore down the fortress stone by stone. The battle was fierce, the odds were against them, but their spirit was indomitable. Their courage was not in vain. The Bastille, the symbol of the monarchy's might, was brought to its knees. And so the Bastille fell. It was a dramatic moment, a turning point in history. The fall of the Bastille didn't just signify the end of a fortress, it marked the beginning of a revolution. It was the first major victory for the people, a resounding declaration of their power and resolve. The Bastille fell, and with it, the old order. The revolution had truly begun. From the ashes of the old regime, a new terror was born. As the dust settled from the storming of the Bastille, a radical faction known as the Jacobins, led by the charismatic and ruthless Maximilien Robespierre, rose to power. This period, known as the Reign of Terror, would mark one of the darkest chapters in the French Revolution. The Jacobins, fervent believers in the principles of liberty, equality and fraternity, sought to purge France of its old aristocratic roots. They saw the guillotine, a device designed for swift and humane execution, as a symbol of their cause. Its blade was the great equalizer, indiscriminate in its descent, no respecter of rank or wealth. The guillotine's most infamous victim was none other than Louis XVI himself. The former king, once the embodiment of absolute monarchy, was now just another citizen, subject to the same laws, the same penalties as the rest. His execution in January of 1793 was a chilling testament to the Jacobins' resolve. The king was dead, and with him, the old regime. But in their pursuit of a new France, the Jacobins sowed seeds of fear and suspicion. Paranoia was rampant. Neighbour turned against neighbour, friend against friend. The slightest suspicion of disloyalty to the new order could result in a swift trip to the guillotine. The Reign of Terror had created an atmosphere of constant dread, a climate where the promise of liberty seemed a distant dream. The French Revolution had begun as a fight against tyranny, a struggle for the rights of the common man. But under the Jacobins, it had transformed into a reign of terror. The ideals of the revolution had been twisted, distorted by fear and the relentless pursuit of a ruthless ideology. The Reign of Terror was a dark chapter in the revolution, a time when freedom was traded for fear. Even as France moved forward, the shadows of its past lingered, a stark reminder of the price paid for revolution. Out of the turmoil, a new leader emerged. In the chaotic aftermath of the Reign of Terror, a figure stepped into the spotlight. Napoleon Bonaparte. A man of humble origins from the island of Corsica, Napoleon was a product of the revolution's meritocratic ideals. He rose through the ranks of the French army with unprecedented speed, demonstrating a genius for strategy and an uncanny ability to inspire his men. But his ambitions didn't stop at the battlefield. In November of 1799, Napoleon staged a coup d'etat, toppling the weak Directory government. He replaced it with the French consulate, an authoritarian regime with himself at the helm. With this, Napoleon effectively ended the revolution, consolidating power in his hands and putting an end to a decade of political instability. As first consul, Napoleon embarked on a series of reforms that left an indelible mark on France. He centralized the administration, streamlined the legal system with the introduction of the Napoleonic Code, and modernized the education system. These changes brought a measure of stability and order to a country that had been torn apart by revolution. But Napoleon's ambitions extended beyond France's borders. His hunger for power led to the Napoleonic Wars, a series of conflicts that engulfed Europe for more than a decade. These wars were characterized by Napoleon's aggressive expansionism and his quest for personal glory. Yet they also spread the revolutionary ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity across the continent. In his pursuit of power, Napoleon transformed France and reshaped the European landscape. His rule marked a departure from the old order, replacing monarchy with meritocracy, feudalism with nationalism. He was a product of the revolution, but also its end. His rise to power marked the closing of one chapter in French history and the beginning of another. Napoleon's rule marked the end of the revolution, but its impact was far from over. The French Revolution, a beacon of hope, a symbol of despair, but most importantly, a catalyst for change. Despite the chaos, the bloodshed, and the relentless waves of turmoil, the French Revolution was a seismic shift that resonated far beyond the borders of France. It was a fervent cry for equality, liberty, and fraternity that echoed through the corridors of time, sparking a flame that would ignite the hearts of nations around the globe. The revolution was a powerful testament to the spirit of nationalism. It was the embodiment of a collective identity, a unified voice that demanded better, that yearned for freedom. This sense of national identity was infectious. It spread like wildfire, fueling the fires of revolutions in nations far and wide, from the shores of Ireland to the mountains of Greece, from the streets of Vienna to the plains of Latin America. But the revolution was not just a harbinger of nationalism. It was also a beacon of democracy. For the first time in history, the common man found a voice. The revolution dismantled the age-old structures of monarchy and aristocracy, paving the way for the rise of democracy, for the reign of the people. It gave birth to the concept of popular sovereignty, where power was vested not in the hands of the few, but in the hands of the many. Furthermore, the revolution had a profound influence on other global revolutions. Its ideals and principles served as a blueprint for change, a guide that would inspire future revolutionaries. From the Haitian Revolution that ended slavery to the revolutions of 1848 that swept across Europe, the legacy of the French Revolution was indelible and far-reaching. The French Revolution was a watershed moment in human history, a turning point that shifted the trajectories of nations. It was a revolution that changed not just France, but the world. The French Revolution changed the face of the world. Its echoes still reverberate through time, a testament to the power of the people.